Are you a rebel? Do you have a rebellious nature? I think everybody has some degree of rebellion inside them, but some people express it far more prominently. And for some, it's the most prominent aspect of their personality. This is perfectly okay, obviously. It's just the way you're expressing. But I wanted to dig a little deeper in this video on the nature of this rebellious tendency that some of us have, and some of us more prominently than others. I can tell you from my own perspective, growing up, I was deeply rebellious in a certain sense. I could tell even as a child that a lot of what adults talked about, how they presented themselves, was inauthentic. I didn't have the terminology to describe that, but I could feel it. I could feel discord, a deep, significant, pervasive discord. And it was in people. I didn't feel it in environments where there weren't people there. If I was playing with my toys or laying in bed or outside looking around in the yard. But when I was around people, interacting with people, they were talking to me, I could feel it. There was something wrong. There was something uncomfortable there. I could feel repressed emotions. Sometimes I could feel their sadness. I could feel their anger a lot of the time. And of course, as a kid, I didn't know what to do with this. I didn't even think outright that I am empathizing with people with a lot of repressed emotions. I could just feel it. It was very obvious. And there was something not right about it, about the way they were interacting either with me or with each other. It felt discordant. Like what I was feeling and what they were saying were very different. I could feel the division. I could feel the division of heart and mind or body and mind. Now, for a child, this is really uncomfortable. And so I think many children actually suffer this way. I think actually all children probably suffer this way to some degree or another. But of course, because they don't have a voice to explain this most of the time, and often they don't have families that are emotionally healthy enough to allow them to develop a language around emotion and more importantly, give them an environment or a space to express emotion naturally and physically. They just sort of internalize it, and then they start building scaffoldings of identity on top of it. And then a few years down the line, they're the adult with repressed emotions, and they raise their children in the same way, and on and on. And then we get to what we have now, which is a society full of repressed emotion. A lot of adults walking around feeling incredibly discordant and inauthentic to their own children, and yet they're the parent. They're the ones that are teaching their children how to be, how to feel, how to think about themselves, how to interact with the world. So this is one way of pointing at the collective suffering of humanity. In a sense, this suffering is something we share among humans through consciousness and communication, through verbal and nonverbal communication. It's a shared hypnosis of separation. Separation between the body and the mind, between the mind and the heart, and the underlying belief in separation that makes the world even appear as if it's divided up into things, objects, people, self, other. So all these levels of separation are a shared hypnotic trance that most people are walking around in. So with that background, with that landscape, when somebody has a rebellious streak, whether it's a child, a teenager, an adult, I totally understand. I totally get it. When someone makes a comment after having watched a video I made or an interview that is like totally sarcastic or discounting of everything we're talking about, like this makes no sense, this is nonsense, etc. I get it. It doesn't offend me at all. In fact, I totally understand their perspective and their view of the world. The only thing they're missing is that this expression, this that I'm pointing to, is the one thing you don't have to be skeptical about. Because it's not about me, and it's not about a topic, and it's not about a message, and it's not championing one way of thinking, one way of believing. It's not championing a philosophy. It's not about a certain religion. It's not even about a certain process. It's actually about you. It's about you that is being protected by the persona of rebellion that you've adopted, which makes sense in its own right. So the part of us that knows we've been surrounded by inauthenticity our entire lives, including in those that had the job of raising us, protecting us, feeding us, loving us, etc., it makes total sense that we would have a rebellion, something that wants to just burn it down, wants to say no to everything. There's a line, it's actually the first line in the song, All Along the Watchtower, written by Bob Dylan, performed by Jimi Hendrix, which says, "There must be some kind of way out of here," said the Joker to the thief. These are the archetypes of rebellion. These are the outsiders. These are the ones that, from the beginning, looked at society and said, nope, it's bullshit. This isn't right. This isn't the way it is. This isn't the way it should be. Something does not feel right here. And the thief finds their exit, their rebellion, through undermining the lawfulness of the system that was hobbled together through inauthenticity, laced together with self-protection and group protection. And the jester finds their exit point by remaining in the system, but constantly undermining the system, making it blow up one way or another, blow it up for others and blow it up for themselves. These are the archetypes of rebellion, and I totally understand them. And this song is powerful for that reason. They're looking for a way out. They're showing you a way out. I'm showing you a way out. That's what the book is about. One of the first paragraphs in the book describes, or at least somewhere in the first chapter, describes the moment I realized there was a way out, a real way out, what the exit point was, and it's in here. It's not an exit point from life. It's not suicide. It's even more radical in a sense. It's the exit point inward, the only direction you can go when you realize the outward, everything you've learned about the outward expression of being a human is inauthentic at one level or another. There's only one place more to look, directly inward. That's what this expression is about. That's what the jester and the thief are pointing to. That's what your inner rebellious nature is pointing you to. So don't turn it on yourself. Don't use it to self-hate, self-doubt, or even project that self-hatred and self-doubt outward onto others and become cynical. Trust this profound intuition of rebellion and follow it inward. Follow it past all of the stuff you've learned about how to be a human, about the stuff you've learned about how to be a good person, how to fit in, or even the things you've learned about how to be a bad person, how to be the rebel. Those are all learned aspects of identity. Drop past those, let go, keep going, and then you find what this is really about. Shadow work. You got to work through that. And the only way through that is to fully inhabit it, fully embody it. You got to feel it. But keep going. If you're even willing to let go of the identity with the physical body, with physicality, now you're really onto something. Now you're taking that rebellious nature to its extreme, questioning even the fundamental sense that I'm a body, I'm a person, I'm in time and space. This is where true rebellion will point you. So keep going. From here, you're going past the most fundamental beliefs about what it is to be alive, to be human. You're, in a sense, going very much alone because you probably know very few people who are going to go here with you. Well, no one can really go with you, but even understand where you're going. So you got to let it go. You got to leave it all behind you. You got to leave planet Earth, really. You got to let it go. And the only way to really do that is going inward, 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 into that very, very quiet place. I'm sure I've quoted this before, the David White poem called The Well of Grief. You have to go down into that well where very few people will go, down to where you can't even breathe, and just keep going. That's the only way you find those shiny coins that others have tossed in wishing for something else. So if you have a rebellious streak, that's awesome. But don't waste it. Don't waste the opportunity. Turn it inward.